All right, everybody, we are live doing our typical, 5 minutes before the actual start of the hour so that everybody gets notified and I can check to make sure that all the live streams are working in all the different places. So let's check LinkedIn. It's not Clinked-in, it's LinkedIn. And had I not been talking to our host tonight ahead of time, I probably would have done this earlier. But, you know, there are more important things than making sure that that everything's getting ready there. And it also helps if you mute your browser window when you're checking on LinkedIn. So we know that one's working. Let's check Facebook. And it's great because, I get notifications for all these things. So it really helps. All right. So we are live on Facebook as well. Perfect. And so one more to check. And that is YouTube. A couple of more clicks here. Content live. And yep. Okay, so we are live everywhere, which is great. Let's see. Do we have any people viewing? So there are actually people watching right now that may not be me. Although I should probably try this. Let me just try this real quick because I know we haven't had problems with comments in a while. So let me just close those browser windows. Come back. It still says we have 3 people viewing. So that is promising. If you're one of those 3 people, please go ahead and put a comment in the comments window. That way I know that that stuff's working. Kind of helps, right? In fact, let me see. I can... Hey, YouTube. Oh, see? Stuff is actually working. Now let me see if I go back and I try and add that last comment. Ooh, look, technology works. Okay, so good. I think this is the first time I've actually had everything ready on time. But if you're out there, please go ahead and put a comment in. Let me know that you're there. Obviously, we are talking about scaling your MSP tonight, and we're talking to an MSP, which, no offense to my vendor friends, right? I think MSPs are actually more important for you guys to hear from because they're trying to do the same things you are, right? That you're actually hearing from the people who are in the trenches, doing what you're trying to do, growing the businesses that you're trying to grow, those kinds of things. Let's see. Now, I do like to open these things back up again just because if something goes wrong, I like to be able to see the comments. And I forgot to mute it again. There we go. Hey, LinkedIn. Yep, that one works. Because we did have that early on. We had that one night when we had the problems with the comments were not coming through. And I don't remember if it was LinkedIn or if it was Facebook. But one of them, they were not coming through properly. And so we missed like a ton of comments, which was very unfortunate because you guys are what makes, you guys make this show. So always want to make sure that you guys can be a part of it. And if I can't see your comments, then it's a really bad thing. Okay. And it looks like the comments are all working and coming through to the live streaming software, which is great because then, I can do fun stuff like pop the last comment up on the screen and then magically take it away. Okay. I think that's enough. I don't know. I have not been drinking yet tonight, folks. Yet being the operative word, maybe. I don't know. Trying not to drink that much. We did have I participated in a whiskey tasting. Was it last week? Yes, it was late last week, and interesting. First one of those I've done virtually, and it was fun. All right, so we are done. Okay, let's get this countdown thing out of the way and run that intro. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the All Things MSP live stream. A couple of things for this week. Number one, if you missed it, Justin and I released our first podcast this week. So the first All Things MSP podcast went live. We have several more actually recorded already, and they'll be released shortly. We do plan on releasing once a week. So if you wanted to know what the schedule was, the schedule is once a week. Right now, you can find that podcast on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, and on Apple Podcasts. Now, I did send out a poll to the Facebook group this morning saying, hey, where do you guys look for, where do you listen to podcasts at? And pretty much Spotify and Google were the other two choices. Now, I think I'm going to do Amazon Music /Audible as well. But if you guys have a extra place that you like to listen to your podcast at, just let me know. Let me know in the comments. And I will probably look into getting those added as we go, forward in the future. Because all I have to do is add a URL. It's pretty easy. And I want to make it as convenient as possible for you guys. So a couple of things just, so that you guys know, we are a Facebook group as well as, these live streams and stuff. So facebook.com/all things MSP, join the group. There's 2 simple questions and then I'll let you in. Of course, LinkedIn, if you prefer LinkedIn as your social media avenue of choice, especially for work. We have a company page over there. So just search for All Things MSP on LinkedIn and you'll find it. And then last and not least, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, which, you almost have to, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're not watching this on YouTube, head over there later and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's plenty of links in the Facebook group or in the LinkedIn. Oh, the sun must have set because my lights just changed there in the background. Welcome to Daylight Savings Time, everybody. That didn't used to happen during this show because it already happened earlier. Okay, with that, let's see. First of all, I guess I should put it out there. Any questions from, the 3 people who are watching us right now? Hopefully that'll build as we're moving through here. Go ahead and comment. If you have questions, let me know. We're obviously going to have a really interesting topic tonight. And speaking of our topic tonight, I have with me John Douglas from Pilus Networks. Hey, John, how you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Oh, Pilus Technology.
Pilus Technologies,
Sorry.
yes. Oh,
I should know that. Like, I'm a bad friend now. So John and I have known each other for a while. We probably started working together a little bit back when you were Logic Now days, when
Yes.
you were a customer over there. Obviously, we've kept track over the years. We both did a lot of volunteer work at CompTIA, and I think it's important to have MSPs on this show because it's so easy to get vendors, right? I have a ton of vendor, relations that, because they get paid to do this, right? It's hard to get MSPs because you guys are busy. You guys are growing businesses. So let's just take a couple of minutes and just have you introduce yourself and kind of talk about where Pilus Technologies is today. And then we'll start talking about the topic for tonight.
Sure. So John Douglas, Pilus Technologies. We're in Wichita, Kansas. I got my start at a previous, I guess pre-MSP, we were doing a lot of break fix work. Spent a number of years there. Ended up purchasing the IT service division from my previous employer. Spun us off back in 2018, and yeah, we're building the MSP here in Wichita.
Awesome. And from what I know, you're actually doing a pretty good job at it. I mean, you're hiring people, you're acquiring clients from, other companies, and, so things are going well for you.
They are going very well at the moment.
Good. Yeah, because I mean, sometimes you're so busy that we don't even get a chance to talk.
Right? It's always great to catch up, and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it's running ragged almost daily here now. So
Yep.
it's a good problem to have.
So by the way, Keith has joined the chat, and he is asking, "Is this the comedy show where we drink and smoke cigars in the chat?" Keith, you are perfectly welcome to drink and smoke cigars in the chat, because I know that's, especially the cigar part is what you really enjoy. So yes,
I
and
could open up the bourbon and the tequila,
oh, I see that.
yeah, yeah, behind me.
I bet I know where you won that bottle of tequila, or who you won it from too.
That is probably a good guess.
Yes, it probably is. And I believe I had her on the show not that long ago. Although
Right?
I do kind of have to, I have to explain the hiatus. So I was traveling for 2 weeks, and then somehow, I don't know if I blocked it or what, but last week we didn't have a live show. And I don't know if it was because nobody scheduled, which I don't think it was. I think I actually made a mistake. I think I blocked off the wrong dates
Uh-oh.
and then canceled. But anyway, so it's been almost 4 weeks since we had one of these now. So it's great to have you on here. And what we really wanted to talk about tonight was scaling an MSP, because that is what you are actively doing right now.
Correct.
And I know that you're using EOS to
Yeah.
scale the business. And so probably a good place to start would be to just talk about EOS for a second, what it is, and how, you've started to implement it for Pilus.
So EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, Traction, is one of the books in the series. There's actually a number of books in there. We needed processes. We needed just things that I guess we needed ways to do things. I guess you could say. I got turned on to that Traction series and started going through. And it really made me start thinking about how we needed to scale and what we needed, I guess, to scale, and start that growth process. So after reading it, I put some notes together, went through to my leadership team and had them read it as well. And we talked about it as everybody was reading it, and now we are actually working with an implementer to really get it going, in our business.
Yeah, and I know that some of the tenets of the EOS system is that it kind of breaks the visionary from the integrator, if
Correct.
I'm using their terminology correctly. And the visionary is usually the entrepreneur, and the integrator is usually the operations person.
Hmm. Definitely.
So who's the visionary at Pilus? Would that be you?
That would be me. Yeah. I am definitely the visionary. Though in some parts I am also the integrator, but the integrator is kind of being, I guess we're kind of being a little loose on it. But the leadership team is really, where we've put that integrator role.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because I never thought about it until recently. When I actually read Traction not that long ago, or listened to it, because I listen to most things before I read them.
Same.
but if they're good, I will buy the book so that I have it hardcover. And there are certain things, and Traction is one of these, where I will buy it because I do want to go through it in more detail
Hmm.
to actually break it down, and I can write notes in the margins and stuff that I can't do when I'm listening to Audible.
Well,
So,
one of the other books in the series is Rocket Fuel.
mhm.
Um, and it really, for the visionary and for me, took it a step further, as far as starting with traction and whatnot. But
Well, because I know that EOS is popular in this space, and I have a feeling I know why. It's because most of us are technicians first, and so we have the technician, the integrator, the operations mindset.
mhm.
So I almost think it would be interesting. And rocket fuel is that, again, remind me, is that what they call when you take the visionary and combine them with the integrator, is when you
To
get
a
the
point,
rocket fuel?
yeah, to a point, yeah.
Okay. So in my mind, for a lot of MSPs, it's how do you bring out that visionary piece?
Hmm.
Do you, is there any advice that you can give on that piece?
Reading those books really made me think, and to some points it made me dream, a little more. I know you can get stuck in the rut, of the day to day, but if you're not dreaming and not thinking about the business as a whole, you get stuck, I guess, so to speak. So it really changed the way that I think about things and about the company as a whole, to move us forward.
And I actually have a comment from Keith that I think kind of speaks to this a bit. So let me go ahead and bring it up here. He says, "So how does one who's living well, which we know Keith, because we know Keith, right? We
Mhm.
know that he has a great business, but how does he jumpstart himself if he wants to go into growth mode and get to that next level? Because especially for a lot of us, we got to a certain level and there was a temptation to stay comfortable
Mhm.
because we were comfortable where we were at. So, do you have any advice for kind of that situation?
Take lots of vacations. I mean,
Well,
it makes you think. It makes you think. You get out of the office, and not necessarily just vacations, but I get a lot by going to industry events and conferences and so on and so forth. Because being around other like-minded members, people at the show, that really, it really helps keep my mind fresh. And I can see what other people are doing, and then I can bring it back here and talk to the team, and we can grow those ideas. So I guess conferences, not necessarily vacations, but conferences is probably the big thing.
well, and I absolutely agree. By the way, conferences are great because you get so many peers at one time, just having ad hoc conversations about anything, and that's really where you hear things that just weren't in your brain before, and
Right.
so they trigger ideas, they trigger thoughts that you maybe didn't have before. And honestly, this works very well into a book that I just finished reading, which was Mind Your Mindset by Michael Hyatt. That's his latest book. And they talk about how a lot of times, and we've all experienced this, right? You're working really hard on something, and you're frustrated because you can't get to that next idea or that next step in whatever you're working on. You walk away and you go do the dishes or something, or take a walk for 15 minutes, a half an hour, and all of a sudden in the back of your mind, because your brain is still working on that in the back of your
Hmm.
head, it just it figures things out for you so that when you
Right.
come back to it, uh, you you have it, and you
Hmm.
have the answer, and you can keep going. So it's very, it's interesting how our minds work like that. And mindset is important.
Oh, definitely.
Mindset was critical to me when I started my MSP, and I was very fortunate to, and people are probably getting tired of me talking about the book by now, but I talk about the E-Myth by Michael Gerber all the time.
Mhm.
That was the mindset book that did it for me. Like, that's the thing that went, oh, I'm not a technician with a job. Well, I was
Mhm.
then, but that's not what I want. I don't want to be a technician with a job. I want to be an entrepreneur growing a business. And that's what
Mhm.
got me to the point where I was able to sell. So, you know, I just think it's very interesting, and I think EOS is one of those too. Obviously, I didn't have the benefit of it when I had my MSP, but I like a lot of what they do. So, bringing it back to kind of some of the tactical stuff, what are some of the most tactical things that you're using EOS for that are really making a difference?
Getting into the level 10 meetings, and really having an agenda, for each
Mm-hmm.
meeting, and building on our rocks and everything else. We're really starting to get those, those put out or written down and out, so that so that the company's working on it. Right now, it is just the leadership team. We haven't rolled this out to the techs yet, because we want to have a better understanding as leadership, as to how this is all working. But we are taking it into other meetings, outside of the leadership team, to follow, I guess you could say, and build and track and everything. And I think tracking everything has become huge.
Yeah, because they have I think it's the idea of using scorecards
Yes,
for tracking your numbers and everything.
right.
So for everybody else's benefit, if they haven't been exposed to EOS yet, what are rocks?
So rocks are, what's the best way to say it? Rocks are tasks, basically, that need, more deeper thought, I guess you could say. So, some of our rocks are building our SOPs, and whatnot. So, but it's, you know, I guess going down that road.
Okay. Um, One of the things that I saw, because I was doing a little bit of research um, on this before you and I had this talk, and it looks like EOS kind of says, okay, you put things in a couple of different buckets. You
Hmm.
have 1 year goals, you have 90-day rocks, and then you
Yep.
have your tasks that you are like supposed to be the next 7 days.
Right.
And I think, in fact, I actually reorganized my daily to do worksheet. Well, it's not a worksheet; it's digital because it's in GoodNotes. But I reworked that to work around rocks and tasks because it's my
Hmm.
daily.
Right.
Obviously my yearlies are going to go somewhere else. But I like that concept and the way that it works. The other thing that I think is brilliant is the level 10 meetings
Right.
because you spend a very little amount of time at the front to go over the scorecard, what's going on in the business, but it's a report out. You have to be very disciplined, probably, to
Hmm.
not start discussing things as they're being reported on.
Oh, we find
And
ourselves squirreling all the time in the beginning, and we're getting better at it.
mhm,
But we still find ourselves stopping and saying, okay, let's table that to our later discussion.
yeah,
But yeah, squirreling is definitely something hard to break.
yeah. But what I like is that this system tries to force you into getting away from squirreling, so that you can um, prioritize it.
Yes.
Because by reporting everything first and just writing down the issues so that you can come back to them allows you to get all the issues down.
Mhm.
Then, when you're done with the report out, you get to look at that list of issues, prioritize them one, two, three, and then tackle the most important one first.
Right.
And then they even have a system for what you do with that, right? You have, is
Mhm.
it identify, discuss, and then solve?
Yes.
Okay.
IDS.
Which I
So,
think, again, is a great framework for dealing with that.
mhm. And we're actually using a software, 90.io, um, to keep track of all this online for us, so everybody can log in and update their rocks, update their goals, everything, in there, so that when we come into the next meeting, we're ready to move forward.
Right. Yeah, I think that's
And
great.
there's several other softwares out there that do the same, similar thing. That was 90.io was just the one that we decided on.
Okay, so we've got the meetings have really helped, and I obviously, I think based on the way I'm talking about them, you can tell I'm kind of jazzed about how those work and actually trying some other format of that in my day
Mhm.
to day. What are some of the other things that are part of EOS that you've started implementing with your leadership team that have started to make a difference?
I mean, we've really started, I guess goals. Looking at goals and making goals for the leadership team and for the company is really, probably the biggest thing, um, that we've done, with using EOS. But as we're still kind of early in implementation. We're about 6 months into it. But we continue to learn, every week. When we have a meeting that, we have our weekly leadership meeting, and then we have several other meetings in between, but with different staff. But I think that's just as a whole, going through it and actually writing things down has just been huge.
And how is that? Because I imagine this has had a pretty significant change on the culture of the leadership team. Have you seen anything in that regard?
I think we're working a lot better as a team. There's still quirks and stuff like that all of us have. But um, you know, in having these meetings, it has definitely, calmed some nerves down. That maybe people not knowing where we were going before, but now we have that roadmap. So
Okay, and uh, Keith, by the way, I love Keith because he's providing lots of questions, which is awesome. He's asking, is your company working from a common office or simply aligning for those meetings?
uh, well, we are in. We're not remote. We're in. We are in. Everybody's in the office. So
Okay, so do you find that that helps?
I do. I think you can do so much remote, right? You can do your Teams meetings, you can do Zoom meetings and stuff like that. But there's something about being in the office together, being able to go down the hall and have a conversation, and especially on the tech side of things, in our tech, quote unquote bullpen. If one of them has a question, all they have to do is turn around and
Yeah.
ask, "Hey, have you seen this?" And so part of that, I mean, it's we haven't, I guess, yeah. I mean, we've always been in the office. I mean, even when COVID hit, our office, our office is socially distanced. So everybody's more than 6 feet apart, and so on and so forth. So when COVID hit, we had actually just moved into this larger space. I sent everybody home, and then after a few months, they were like, "Can we go back to the office?" I was like, "It's up to you guys. I mean, I'm leaving it up to the employee." And everybody wanted to come back. I mean, there's days where some of us will work remote or something like that, to try to catch up on a goal or something like that. But for the most part, everybody's in the office every day.
Okay. Well, and it looks like you've got a really nice office there too, by the way. I was
Oh,
going to
thank you.
mention that. You know,
Thank you.
The exposed brick wall, the nice big windows.
So we are in a location in Wichita that is it's called Old Town. So it's downtownish,
Hmm.
but it's all like this building was built in like 1900, so
Nice.
and been remodeled. So
So, if you had some advice on scaling your MSP for some of those, the MSPs out there that are watching,
mhm.
what, beyond EOS maybe, or even still including EOS, I don't care. What's some of the advice that you would give to an MSP who's looking to scale?
EOS is working great for us. So that is one thing. Um, get your SOPs in order. I think starting out, coming over from my previous employer, we didn't have a lot of SOPs and stuff written down. And so, get organized with SOPs and your processes, get them all down. As far as scaling goes, um, you know, obviously sales is important, but kind of like I mentioned earlier, go to the conferences. Um, you meet so many people, and you'll find MSPs that are the same as you and are bigger or smaller. But everyone that I talk to, I generally walk away with something that I can go back and be like, I like that idea, or and hopefully this is the same that I give. I give advice, and this is how we're doing things, and hopefully somebody else takes it too. But I say plug into the channel. I mean, build the relationships. And once you do that, you'll scale.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite things about this industry, right? Is because we do have a very tight knit community that is willing to help each other. Um, it's who was I talking to the other day? Oh, I was talking to Justin. We were working on a podcast, and we, this business is one of the few where you can really talk about or operate from a position of abundance.
Hmm.
We don't really have to worry about stealing business away from other people for us to grow. There are
Right.
plenty of small businesses out there who need MSPs that don't have one yet.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that's we find all the time, in our marketing efforts, with getting out there that, our new business development rep, he was out, was canvassing and, he's met several customers, that are potentials that, okay, we don't have anybody now, but we need to have a discussion. And so it's open doors.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I think that you can start small, you can start big, you can target small customers, you can target big customers. Heck, you can target residential customers
Hmm.
if you want. Um, but
We
that's
don't, but
and that's perfectly okay. And you probably shouldn't try and do all of it, right?
right. Find what
Residential
you're good
is,
at.
yeah, do what you're good at. Yep, exactly. And there are some people in this industry who I know personally have really good white glove, boutique level residential services, and they make some really good money off
Hmm.
of a small number of clients. Now, are you going to scale that to a 15, 20, $30 million MSP? No.
Probably not.
But you can do really well with a handful of employees for
True.
yourself,
That is true. That is true.
and have a quite a nice lifestyle business operating from that. Okay, I want to go back to the scorecard for just a minute
Hmm.
because I want to know what are some of those critical KPIs that an MSP who's looking to grow should be tracking.
We are on our scorecard. We have, our obviously our CSAT scores. We track all those in there. We're tracking our technician hours. technician billable hours, as well as different I guess quotas or whatever for sales. So we're tracking where we're at on recurring revenue, just sales in general.
Yeah.
Those are the basics that are on ours.
Okay. So the point there is it doesn't have to be complicated, but start tracking something.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what you need to work on most in the business and start tracking it. I was talking to an MSP the other day who was really like they're just starting out, so they really have started with nothing yet. And I'm like, first thing you got to do, you have to decide how much money you need to live and
Mm-hmm.
operate this business, and put that on a whiteboard, and then
Yep.
figure out how much in sales you have to do in a month, additional revenue
Mm-hmm.
that you have to do every month to get to that place in whatever your runway is, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is. If you don't have a scorecard, if you're not tracking those numbers, you'll find it very hard to get there.
Mm-hmm. And that's for the first few years. I mean, that's we were going through the paces, but we weren't necessarily tracking exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
So so once we pivoted and we started tracking those things, that's where we've really seen we've really seen revenue grow.
Yeah. And that's what you'll find, right? The big number is the big number, and you always want to be tracking that number. But then what you figure out is that there are smaller numbers that contribute to that number that give you earlier insight into how you're doing. And you
Mm-hmm.
can back it all the way up to once you get good at it, you can say, if I have salespeople and they're making this many phone calls a day, that means they're going to bring in this many prospects. It's going to generate this many meetings, and I'm going to convert that many of them into
Right.
clients.
Definitely.
And that is when you can really start predicting where the business is going to go based on the inputs, the activity that you're putting into it.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Totally agree.
Um, oh, I know what I wanted to ask you this because you mentioned going to events. What are some of your favorite events to go to?
The channel company events are fantastic. Those events. If you look at those, um, they generally they're nice because they generally bring you in. They pay for you to be there. But the networking at those events are invaluable. I also hit generally DattoCon is always been a good show. We'll do Kaseya IT Connect or Connect IT in Vegas, actually coming up next month. Um, and then I also do some of the Channel Pro SMB events.
Okay. I was going to ask about that because, there's kind of two different types of events in our industry. There's the larger nationwide events, right? Now, maybe they'll have one in North America, maybe they'll have another one over in Europe, whatever. But there's usually significant travel and hotel and stuff involved because it's a multi-day event. If you're
Right.
going to go to one of those, it's an investment. I do like, the channel company events. Even as a vendor, because we're the ones paying for you to be there. But that's okay because, like, as a vendor, I like those shows as well, right? I fully support those shows and will do them every chance that I get. But I think the format works for everybody in that case, which I think
Definitely.
is what we're really aiming for. But you also have these smaller events, and I'm going to mention Channel Pro is one of them. Channel Pro is one that I've done for years. Love the folks over at Channel Pro. You also have ASCII.
ASCII, yes.
And even though sometimes they do hit the same cities, they often have some cities that are different as well. So
Right.
if you don't want to travel as much, they're usually one-day events, and those might be easier to get to. And I think they're very informative as well. Everybody has kind of gone to this model where yes, there's vendors there because that's what pays for the show, right?
Hmm.
But they are urging the vendors to have business conversations, to have business presentations rather than just pitching their product.
Hmm.
And they're bringing panels in, they're bringing other experts in to talk about the industry. I know Channel Pro last year was all about, acquisitions and cybersecurity, and they had different panels on different things. And it really was educational for the MSPs. And it was worth going to,
Hmm.
not just to learn about what the vendors were doing, but also to learn about what the industry is doing and some best practices and things like that.
And definitely, I went to Channel Pro in Dallas during the ice storm this year. Yeah, that was fun. Um, and MSP Ignite, which is a peer group, that I'm part of too. They had a pre-day, and so I went and sat in on that. Which was just, it was amazing. It gave a lot of thought, to people that were not MSP Ignite members.
Well, and let's actually double click on that a little bit, because peer groups are a big thing in our industry, and I know that they have helped a lot of people. So, what has your experience been with peer groups, and how have they helped you grow?
I'm part of two. So I've got one, basically one is a group of people that, basically we met at channel company events. We were in boardrooms together there, and it's great. Again, it goes back to going to the shows and having those conversations. But it's also about accountability, because just like that, and in MSP Ignite, we're talking about our numbers, so that we understand, where we are and where we want to be, and then it, lets the rest of the peer group, really answer and go, to help us get there, and hold us accountable into, or as to what we're doing.
And how important, going from not having an accountability group like that to having an accountability group, what were some of the things that you noticed with that?
I mean, I noticed. Well, I can say I noticed. The mind shift. That I was going through, which is part of that, and part of EOS, as well. But having that accountability, and like, I've got one peer group that we meet every week. Every week is a different topic. So we know that week one we're going to talk about HR, or week one we're going to talk about sales issues, sales and marketing. Week two we're going to talk about finance. Week three we're going to talk about security, and cyber issues. Week four we're going to talk about HR. So it's really, we've really been growing that group, so that we can have those conversations and help everybody, with growing the business. Are you muted, or am I?
I am, because my air conditioner is on, and it sounds like there's a tornado in my office when the air conditioning is on. So, um, again, so we have somebody in the watching on YouTube asking if one can attend the events virtually, and again, some of them you can, some of them you can't. It just depends
You know,
on the
now that
event itself.
now that we're kind of, so to speak, on the backside of COVID, a lot of them are doing. I know Channel Company did some event, or some of the last exchange event, to where you could log on and watch it virtually. But I think most of them have gone back to in person.
Yeah, although I think, I mean, before almost none of them were done online, right?
Hmm.
The pandemic has at least gotten some of them to do them hybrid, so
Sure.
that you can attend, especially if you're outside of the country, right? That does make a difference. If you're not
Yeah,
here, it's much harder to get here from another country, another continent,
you're right. Yeah.
especially to the U.S. So, All right. So hopefully you guys can deal with the tornado going on. Um, it's just
I hear nothing. So
one. Oh, that's good. That's good. Uh, sometimes people can hear it. Sometimes they can't. When Justin and I were recording a podcast last Friday, he said he could hear it. It was only when I wasn't talking, so that's good because I talk a lot. So that helps. Um, let's see. There was something else I was going to ask you. Ah, we talked about the scorecard. Oh, I know what I was going to say because I was going to go back to talking about. I think EOS is great. It's an operating system, right? And
yeah.
operating being the key word, because it fills the gap. Because in most entrepreneurial situations, you have a visionary, right?
Hmm.
The visionary is the one that started the business, and so it's the operations side that they need help with, which is why the EOS was developed. The more that I look at MSPs and EOS, I'm like, this is why I'm building that framework that I'm building.
Hmm.
Because the framework that I'm building based on the customer experience is to create the vision,
Right.
right? And so I'm hoping to have that out in time for ChannelCon so that I can share it. And then I think that pairing something like my framework with EOS kind of
Hmm.
gives you both sides of it. Which I've talked to you about my framework a little bit because
Hmm.
we've chatted about it. What do you think? Am I kind of going down the right road with that? Does it sound like maybe there's something there?
I yeah, I definitely think there is.
Okay,
With
because
everything we've talked about, I mean, yeah, I mean, and marrying the two, I think is definitely worth
because
worth the go.
in this business, like I think I said earlier, most of us were technicians first, and so operations is more where we lean to,
Hmm.
and where we struggle is the vision,
Yeah.
is imagining a 15 to $20 million MSP and
Hmm.
going and what does that look like, and what does that look like in terms of the business that I want to run, because
Exactly.
that's a big thing in this industry, and that's the other reason why I started looking at developing something like this was because I wanted to give people a framework that didn't dictate how they should build a business and what that
Hmm.
business should look like. I wanted them to decide, but have the building blocks to kind of put together, because you can take building blocks and build a castle or a
Right.
wall or a house, whatever
Or
you want. And so that's kind of, I'm hoping that now that I've learned a little bit more about EOS, thanks
hmm.
to you, that I will be able to kind of talk about both
Hmm.
now, and talk about both of them working together to be able to satisfy the needs of somebody who's a visionary and needs operations, or somebody who is an operations person and needs that vision
Visionary.
piece of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, guys, if you're watching and if you have any questions for John, please go ahead and put those in the comments window. We are receiving comments, I think, from all three platforms. Let me just check. And Keith, I'll get to yours in just a second. Um, okay, so Keith's is the next question. If we go back to 20 plus years and start up as smart as we are now, imagine the different growth patterns. Um, Keith, that's absolutely true. I mean, I would,
Hmm.
if it wasn't for the fact that I was having so much fun on the vendor side and doing my community stuff like this, um, if I could go back and be an MSP now, knowing what I know, because you guys all shared it with me, um, I think I would be able to do a whole lot better than I did, um, based on just all of the sharing that you guys have done with me, even though I'm technically on the dark side as a vendor now. Um, But you guys know I started out as an MSP, so you guys are still in my heart. You're my people. So, well, John, we've managed to spend a good 45 minutes talking about this. What do you have any last words? Any last bit of advice for somebody who is maybe just starting out and wants to scale their business to that first level of maybe $500,000?
I mean, I have talked to other providers, other MSPs, that are one man shows that are going through EOS themselves, so that when they bring on staff, they're in that right mindset. That's number one. Number two is, like I mentioned, go to some events and don't be afraid to go up to other MSPs and have a conversation. Learn from others, because it's going to do nothing but make you better.
Awesome. And by the way, I got three nuggets out of that. So the first one is to change your mindset. Make sure that you have the mindset of an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Second one, get the systems in place, even if you're just starting out now as a one-man band. It will save you time and headaches later when you bring on that first person. It'll be so much easier to train them. Okay.
Right.
Plus, that those operations, those processes, you'll start building a scorecard. And you need to start building a scorecard now, because what building that scorecard now will do is, instead of prioritizing your employees, you'll be prioritizing your time based on that scorecard. And
100%.
then community. Community is the third thing that I got from that. And this community is so great about sharing, lifting each other up, and helping each other, that just like you being willing to come on to here, on this little live stream show that I do on most Wednesday nights.
Yep.
So I really do appreciate that. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. John, of course, always a pleasure to
Thanks for
meet
having
with
me.
you. Hopefully we will see each other out on the road at some point this year. Don't know when that is yet, but I know at some point we will. And just really appreciate everybody being here. Keith, thank you for being the third man on the show today. That's always a help. So, kudos to you for being there, supporting the show. And if you haven't heard, we did start a new podcast. So the All Things MSP podcast with Justin Escar had our first episode drop yesterday. We already have one scheduled for next Tuesday, and we have plenty more to go. A lot of great interviews coming up. If you'd like to be interviewed on the All Things MSP podcast, reach out. Let me know. You can comment, you can reach out to me, you can DM me on any one of these platforms that you're watching it on tonight. And with that, have a great evening. Don't forget, work like a captain, play like a pirate, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.